Hey guys, Joe here at JP Details and welcome to the Range Rover SVR Detail of all details. What a magnificent vehicle this is, finally seeing one in person, and the best thing for me is the limited edition MSO blue paintwork. I think these are such character-filled vehicles both inside and out, and the exhaust note is absolutely incredible. The ultimate bossman whip in my eyes, sporting a 5-litre V8 engine producing 575 brake horsepower and 516 foot-pounds of torque. I've now been taken out in two of these by two special clients of mine, and I can confirm that they are quick. Sam has got the sickest cinema room that you'll have ever seen, and no doubt Nick will have a few tricks up his sleeve as well. Maybe one day we'll have to take a visit over to their houses and have a look. Like and subscribe if you agree. Sam's SVR is in perfect condition for YouTube viewing because it's absolutely filthy and it's covered in swirl marks, which you'll see shortly. To begin with, I'll raise the air ride suspension as high as it'll go to allow a better access to the arches, as we're not going to be taking the wheels off. First stage, pre-rinse the wheel and arch one at a time to remove as much of the baked on brake dust and grime. Get yourself a good pressure washer because they are a vital tool. You can buy them from anywhere from £100, but I'd recommend spending a little bit more. A must-have product for wheel cleaning duties is an iron fallout remover, because this is going to help you to tackle the main type of contaminant found on wheels, which is brake dust. Go ahead and spray your wheel up and watch the iron contamination light up. The worse the wheel, the deeper and more prevalent the purple becomes. Allow the product a short period of time to begin working its magic, and then begin to agitate with the brushes. I like to use a few different brushes to clean the wheels inside and out and behind the spokes, including a wash mitt, tyre scrubber, big bog brush for the inner barrels and the arches, a smaller brush for the front of the alloys, and just an APC to assist with the cleaning of the arch and the tyre's sidewall. Nothing too crazy with the wheels apart from actually getting them as physically clean as they can be, and sometimes this does require a few different hits with the product if the wheels are bad. The SVR wheels are moderately soiled, but with some time they are coming up very well. They are in need of a good machine polish because the swirl marks in the soft gloss black powder coat finish is looking noticeably faded, as well as the other gloss black bits of trim over the car. All areas of the wheels, including the brake calipers and the lug nuts, are cleaned, followed with a good pressure rinse, and then moved to the next corner. The first step for the bodywork is to thoroughly rinse it all down from top to bottom, so again utilise the jet wash to make our lives easier going forwards. There's a major build-up of dirt on the SVR, so I'll be sure to spend the time required. I'll be using Easy Car Care Sub-Zero Snow Foam for a pH neutral application to help soften the final 5%. When the layer has been applied to the full vehicle, including the arches and popping the filler cap open, I'll let it dwell for as long as possible before it begins to dry. The longer the snow foam has on the vehicle, the longer the time it has to soften the dirt and grime. Simple. Rinse thoroughly when satisfied, and on this occasion I will spend a bit longer to remove this next bit of grime because the final 5% is way better bonded to the car. Using the 2-bucket method and a JP Details wash mitt purchasable from the JP Details online store, just visit jpdetails.co.uk/store. Me and Ryan will begin the washing process, starting with the higher up surfaces first, and will then hit the lower down ones towards the end. Straight line motions or figure of 8s are best in my book, but don't apply any more pressure than what feels right, and be sure to rinse the mitt out frequently to keep further wash-induced marring at bay. Always use a secondary wash mitt to clean under the front and rear bumpers, the side skirts and the painted inner arch lips. Rinse the soapy suds off when complete, and will then be ready for decon stage 1. The tar and glue remover stage is going to remove the vast amounts of road tar deposits on the SVR, and mainly those on the lower sections. You can apply the product to one side of the vehicle if you're working in the shade, but you must get to work removing the excess immediately. Wipe the paintwork with a microfiber towel, also purchasable from the online store, to begin removing the contamination. The smaller blobs will go away straight away, but the larger ones do sometimes need a few hits to begin breaking them down. You can pick at the bigger blobs if you are careful with your fingernail to initially break through, but be careful not to fingernail your paint. Use your common sense if you choose to do this, but I'd only ever do it on blobs big enough that can't be done through the use of a towel. Feel free to go ahead and treat the windows, paintwork, headlights and the wheels, but stay away from the rubber trim, but you can wipe down the plastics. A vital decontamination stage is this, so make sure it's done right. I'll detail the bodywork as a priority, and then all glass, wheels and finally the lowest down sections. I'll use a few towels and probably around 500ml of tar and glue remover, no doubt, for a vehicle of this size and its contamination level. Rinse the vehicle down afterwards, and that prepares us for decon stage 2. The iron fallout stage, which is the same as we saw on the wheels, is now going to do the same thing to the bodywork. That brake dust from the wheels is going to flick up and on the paintwork, and it does settle down and get comfy, so an iron fallout bath would work wonders for vehicles that haven't had this done in a number of years. The contamination will light up purple, and it's a fascination to watch on light coloured vehicles. I don't believe that we'll see much on the blue SVR though.
So there's probably a reason why I don't bother using these.
Rinsing the second decontamination stage does take a bit of time to do well enough, so be prepared to use up some patience. You'll want to remove as much of the product residue as possible, particularly from the gaps and crevices, but a final snow foam wash will help us out further. In this case, due to the door shuts being nicely soiled with mud thanks to Sam living in a beautiful country manor, I'll give them a nice rinse to knock the vast majority of dirt and grime away from these slightly more delicate clear coated surfaces. These Range Rovers are often owned by folk living in the sticks, and they often get hammered down the same country lanes more than once in the same day, no doubt, so the amount of mud and grime can be excessive. A well-aimed rinse for these areas will make them much safer to contact clean. Nobody wants to open their doors and be greeted by swirl marks, so it certainly makes sense to take care of them. Wet work almost complete will bring the SVR inside for claying to remove all final bonded contamination. This example is a couple of years old and I'm pretty sure it has around 20,000 miles on the clock, so claying will be essential. Links in the description for numerous products used in today's video, including the Meguiar's Last Touch Detail Spray, which I dilute 3:1 to act as the clay lube for the Meguiar's clay bar. Ensure to use lots of detail spray to help you gently glide the clay bar over the paint and refold it when required. There was a good amount of tree sap on the bonnet and just the general amount of contamination found over the rest of the car. Check the clay bar regularly for small bits of debris which will need picking out, otherwise there'll be tiny objects being scraped all over the surface. The joys of using this clay combination allows you to dry the car without any need for a final rinse. The detail spray does add a sacrificial coat of protection to the surface that it's applied to, but machine polishing will remove it the second abrasion begins.
No, back, no. Yeah, okay, mate, sound. Alright, mate, see you in a bit. Bye, mate.
We're going to be fully treating the interior and protecting with the full range of G-Technic interior coatings, so the first task is to get the interior back to an immaculate condition once again. Ryan has begun blowing out the trap water from the gaps and crevices, which is important before ceramic coating, so you can't afford for this to happen. This would dilute the coating, so it's an absolute no-no. The steering wheel, instrument cluster, infotainment system, screen, the air vents, cup holders and everywhere else for that matter will initially be dusted with a soft brush and then cleaned with a suitably diluted all-purpose cleaner. Most of the interior is leather, which will be nice when it's all finished, as the leather guard brings out the freshest of leather smells that you'll have ever smelt before. We have some Alcantara sections on the seats to mix things up a bit, so each of these areas will require a slightly different approach, so listen closely. Dust and vacuum first, followed by a contact clean for each of those areas. A soft detailing brush for the multiple different leather and the odd plastic surface in this one, mop up with a towel and work your way around the interior. Use your head and keep moving forwards with the detail and tick each section off as you go. The driver's footwell and passenger side needed more of a deeper clean, and this was simply done with a Sonax upholstery brush and the all-purpose cleaner. Vacuum after with a wet and dry vac, and this will present the dirtiest of footwells immaculately, providing you spend the time. All interior surfaces are now nicely clean, so I'll begin to apply the first layer of G-Tonic leather guard using a microfiber applicator whilst massaging it onto the leather. This will soften and add subtleness to the material whilst also giving a natural finish, and it helps to release the natural smell into the cabin, which is beautiful. Apply to one section at a time, although you do have a good amount of time to work with the product, so don't feel overly rushed. Use the right amount of product and your cleanup should be minimal. Apply to your select section and then wipe over several times with a microfiber towel to remove the excess residue. This product requires a second layer to be applied 24 hours after the first, and this will then protect the leather for 12 months. A reasonably time-consuming process for a vehicle with as much leather as the SVR, but nevertheless the effort is worth the reward. With the first layer of leather guard complete, I want to make a start on the paintwork today to make some decent progress before the end of day one. The gloss black trim has been hammered on this car over the last 2 years, and I'm dying to see how good it looks after the treatment. The SVR is receiving a single stage machine polish by the way, so we won't be doing any compounding. We'll be enhancing the vehicle with the newly renamed service of Enhance the Paint and Detail Me Up Detail, which is essentially an enhancement detail. We'll be aiming for around a 70% reduction in the swirl marks typically with an enhancement detail, although with newer vehicles the percentage of defect removal is always going to be higher. Chances are the defects in newer vehicles are going to be the utmost top layers of the clear coat. We must have achieved at least 80% on the Range Rover. A brand new vehicle, you keep it at 100% providing that there's no nasties in the paint, or unless it's a red Yaris GR4. The first task the next morning was to apply the last layer of leather guard to the leather and to protect the interior fabric, so I can tick the interior off as being complete. All fabric now dry and dirt and debris free, apply a good amount of the i1 product to the fabric and then work in wearing a glove. It's as simple as that. Work the product over the surface to help coat each individual fibre. Repeat this process on each corner of the cabin and the boot and make sure that the rest of the interior is finished, including the internal windows, gloss black piano trim, carbon fibre trim and all chrome door handles, instrument cluster, infotainment system, screen etc. Make sure everywhere is all clean and ready for the owner before closing the doors. Move the front seats forwards when you treat the rear, and you never guessed it, move the front seats back when you treat the front. That goes for whilst cleaning the vehicle in the first place as well. Considering the car's only 2 years old, it's blatantly been getting hammered by the £5 car washes. It's difficult to tell on camera sometimes the severity of the swirling, but for the age, the SVR is in definite need of a professional seeing to. In an ideal world, you would give it a paint correction to purely focus on removing the defects and then refine afterwards for maximum gloss. If you simply try to refine a vehicle that's just gone past the point of what the capabilities are of a finishing polish, taking into account the finish needs to be good enough at the bare minimum to ceramic coat after, you'll find yourself trying to remove swirl marks that aren't designed to come out with a finishing polish. In return, you'll spend a long time chasing your tail. I knew before we begun that the MSO blue paint is going to need the heaviest polishing stage that I can offer, followed with a second much lighter stage of polishing. The first is going to help us to knock these defects back, and the lighter polish afterwards will remove a few holograms, no doubt. This car is definitely suited for the 2-stage enhancement detail, that's for sure. The yellow setup by Rupes with the yellow pad and yellow polish is working wonders for the paint, but due to the size of the thing, it's taking a while. Your body will realise when you're working on a Range Rover because they'll tire you out. I'll be using the machine on speed setting 6 for both stages of polishing, and be sure to keep brushing your pads out and reapplying polish when required. I'll swap to the Mini Bigfoot, which is loaded with a white pad and yellow polish combination, to then go back over the paint for a final pass. Don't buff the residue off, just hit it again and then wipe it all off at once. Similar to what we saw on the 1 Series recently with the slowing down the machine technique, with the SVR needing such a good initial polish to remove the swirl marks, it is going to leave a few holograms in the finish, so a second follow up with a slightly weaker polishing combination is what's going to be needed. I'm going to continue and make progress on the car, and I'll include as many before and afters as I can, and I'll join you again at the next task. Removal of the front plate will allow access behind in true detailer style. I'll clean it up and polish the area perfectly. Brush your pads out frequently and reload with product when required. Only use what's needed to control the residue in your pads, and most importantly, get stuck in with pad on paint. Work some magic, graft, earn your reward and enjoy what you are doing. The yellow on yellow combination by Rupes, followed with the yellow polish and white pad by Rupes, is providing the SVR with the 2-stage polishing process that it so dearly needs. Like with each detail, we've got a few machines at our disposal, mainly the Rupes LHR15 Bigfoot, Mini Bigfoot, Hybrid and the ShineMate Mini Rotary. A handheld polishing applicator for all final hidden and hard to reach areas is the professional way to do it. Overall, the results were good, but taking into account the size of each panel, we both found we were left with a few obsolete areas that just hadn't been hit by the machine well enough. These areas were hit for a second time and some even for a third time. Sometimes this is where the machine polisher's suitability comes in, so perhaps the smaller machine that may be better suited. In saying that, I like to utilise the bigger machine for as many areas as possible first, and then hit with the Mini Bigfoot for the areas which are much better suited in regards to their size. Get hold of your machine, take control and show it where to go. Slow and steady wins the race or wins the concourse event, either way you look at it. There were various isolated defects on the bonnets that were very noticeable under the studio lights, so I opted to give them a good compound to get the panel to what I will class as coatable. With the rest of the paintwork nicely polished, the inside of the grab handles are clearly not in a suitable condition to blend in with the rest of the perfectly polished, posh as sports car utilities vehicles paintwork. We certainly won't want any type of negative visual element on the car, because this will simply draw your eyes away from the beauty of the car as a whole. So how easily can £1 million detail job be ruined? Something as cynical as not polishing behind the door handles would make me personally completely write that car off as being professionally detailed. The ShineMate EP803 intricate machine polishing tool and just the soft red cone attachment that comes with the accessory kit will get these areas perfectly presented. As it turned out, the gloss black strip along the top needs a good compound to remove some heavier marks. We'll tackle these promptly and refine after to get us one step closer to ceramic coating. We've inspected the paint at different angles and checked with our lights, and we're now happy to give the entire exterior the IPA wipe down. The product can be sprayed directly onto the panel or into your towel, and you then have to wipe over the paint several times rather carefully and thoroughly, might I add, to eventually reveal a smear-free, polish residue-free, oil-free but a slightly catchier or rougher surface. This means that all oils have been removed from the paint, so we know that our ceramic coating will bond directly to the clear coat. Carry a couple of towels around with you and always have a master towel and a secondary towel. That way you will be almost guaranteed a perfect finish. Inspect the paint as you go to make sure everything is going to plan, as I have had a few vehicles where they just don't seem to get along with certain IPAs. The product is very strong though, so bear that in mind. Wipe the paintwork down, the wheels, windows and everywhere that's due to be coated. Apply the first layer of G-Technic Crystal Serum Light to the paint, starting with the left hand side of the bonnet in my case, and then remove the residue with either the 2 towel technique or the 3 towel technique, the choice is yours. CSL will provide us with the durable and tough undercoat, whereas XO V4 will give us the highly water and dirt repellent top function. The first layer goes on and you then need to leave it 3 hours to cure enough to apply the second layer. 3 hours after that you can apply the third layer and then leave the vehicle indoors for 12 hours after treatment to allow them to all fully cure. Me and Ryan are going to get the first layer done quick time, and when we're done I'll talk you through XO V4. With the first layer of ceramic applied, XO V4 is next, and it's applied in the exact same way as CSL. 2 coats provide a much slicker and smoother top surface to aid with the physical phenomenon that is water beading. All 3 layers combined will build a durable ceramic film on the car that will prevent micro-marring, and tasks such as washing and drying will be far more enjoyable and easier afterwards. By having your vehicle ceramic coated, quite simply will get it looking better than any other method of getting a vehicle looking good. Perfect the paint PPF if it's a valuable asset or an investment or a second love child, but only if you want to spend the cash, but always ceramic coat whether it's been PPF'd or not. PPF non-ceramic coated isn't the best experience to dry, so I found out on the other SVR funnily enough. It catches lint from the towels, which means you'll have to use waffle weave drying towels to get a lint-free finish. Me and Ryan are going to knock out the next 2 layers of XO V4 in double time.
Kid is so wavy.
The exhaust tips on the SVR required a further hit with tar and glue remover, polish with Maguire's metal polish and a bit of wire wool for the heaviest stained areas. They were then magically back to shiny condition. The wheels have now been machine polished by Ryan, who I set the task for, but I forgot to tell him that I needed to record at least one wheel for a before and after. Never mind. Ryan did what he could with the wheels using 2 different machine polishers whilst I was doing something else on the vehicle. I'll wipe them down with panel wipe to ready them for Swissvax Autobahn, which will then be applied by Ryan. IPA the tyres, buff the Autobahn wheel wax, dress the tyres with your favourite tyre dressing, and we should be able to see the end in sight. We'll coat all areas of paintwork, including underneath the sills, the diffuser at the rear, the large piece underneath the front bumper, and the painted bits on the inner arches. We finished off coating the glass with G1 Clear Vision, decided to spend a bit more time on the grille because it did turn out to be a tricky surface to coat. Pop the G-Technic window sticker in and clean up after yourself, then you can finally stand back and admire your hard work. We've turned the condition of the SVR into something that's going to stand out quite a fair bit more. Have your vehicle detailed and it will finally be in the best physical condition that it could possibly be in. This has been a fantastic vehicle to work on and a great one to shoot for the channel. As always, thank you for watching, and please do check out some of my other uploads. Like and subscribe if you are new to the channel, and feel free to give me a follow on Facebook and Instagram, just search JP Details, and I'll hopefully catch you in the next one.